the way the HubSpot API works, we needed to approach importing data into Obvio a little bit differently. So rather than with MailChimp and Infusionsoft or Keep, they both send data to Obvio as it's updated in their system, right? So when you update a tag or when you update a contact record in Infusionsoft, Infusionsoft fires over a webhook to us, and we then take an action. We import that user into, or that contact into Obvio as an attendee. HubSpot's API is a little bit different. So we are using a pull methodology rather than a push methodology from them. So that sync toggle needs to be turned on in order for the integration to work. And what will happen is depending on how big your event is, it's every 1, 2, or 3 minutes, it will import all of the updates to the contacts who are attendees into Obvio. So for most people, you have to get to a pretty big event for the sync to slow down, basically. So for most people, it'll update once a minute. And essentially what we're doing is we're saying, hey, HubSpot, any updates to our contacts over here who have this contact property? And HubSpot says, here are all the updates. And we then compare it and update it. And that only happens when the sync is turned on. So that's basically it. The sync gets automatically turned off at the end of your event. So you don't actually have to take an action to turn it off, because we are using HubSpot API resources in order to do this. And if you're using HubSpot, most people who are using HubSpot are a little bit more advanced. And a lot of them have other things that are using their API resources, and HubSpot has API limitations, meaning you can only do so much with HubSpot's API. So we turn off that sync at the end. The other reason that it's toggled on or off, you may want to do some testing early on, but then, I'm not going to send anything to my attendees until the day before the event. So you could potentially just turn off the sync until the day before your event, once you've tested it, and then just turn it on for the 3 days of your event. Again, for HubSpot users who are a little more advanced, we wanted to give them a little more flexibility. And in some of that, we had to give them more flexibility. So that's that sync toggle you want to turn on in order for Obvio to automatically import attendees.
Got it. And the probably more important questions, the HubSpot tags, like the attendee created check-in waiver tag.
Yep.
And it's up in my HubSpot if you want to look at
it. Sure. What's your organization name?
The healthy business guy. And then the event is the profit map.
Give me 1 second. Healthy business guy. All right. Profit map. Got it. All right. So here's why don't I just run through this for you as a whole. Number one, login URL. Obviously, this is a contact property. It will only show you text contact properties, right? So other contact properties won't show up in that listing. It doesn't show all contact properties, only the types of contact properties that you can actually store the login URL in. So you create that in HubSpot, and then you select the correct one. Attendee import property. What this needs to be is this: you need to have a contact property inside of HubSpot that identifies your attendees as an attendee. The thing that we've been using the most often for this in our testing, and also in the couple clients who have used the HubSpot integration, is we're using either checkbox, select box, or radio boxes at contact properties, and then just having the contact property say yes, as an example, right? So there might be a contact property that is like event name attendee, and it's a radio button, and the only option inside radio button is yes. So, email confirmed. This is probably a yes or no checkbox, right? So you would select the correct contact property, and then you would select which option identifies the attendee as an attendee. So let's just say email confirmed and true, right?
Yep.
Next up, these are action tags. So these are tags where Obvio actually applies data to a contact property based on specific actions, right? So attendee created, attendee checked in, attendee signed waiver. So again, what you can do here is you can have this be text or checkboxes. That's up to you. But what I have found works nicely for these 4 tags is actually a multi-select checkbox contact property, where you have like 4 different options. One of the multi-select, or one of the checkboxes, would be attendee. Another of those checkboxes could be attendee created in Obvio. Another one could be attendee checked in, and another one could be attendee waiver signed. And then what you do is you come in here and you select the exact same contact property for each of these 4 items, but you select a different option, right? So if I were to make this false, then when the attendee is created, we will make the email confirmed property false. I know that doesn't really make sense.
Well, yeah, okay.
but you see what I'm saying, right? So
No,
that's
I
what
don't. You lost me. You make
did I
it
really lose you?
false.
Say it again.
Yeah. Why do you make it false?
Well, because you have to select something. So, all right, let me see if I can show you a real example rather than kind of making up crazy contact property names. Give me 1 second. I need to see. So
I was totally with you with the radio box and the different groups. I love that. I just didn't understand when you said you made it false. So
well, I'll show you. Just give me 1 second. Give me one second. Here we go. I know you're not seeing anything. I'm looking for an event that I can actually show you that has real items in it. Okay, here. This is a good example. So for this particular client, we have an attendee import property, and the contact property is 2023 AOL. That's the event name. And then fulfillment access, and it's a checkbox type. That's all created in Hubspot. And in order for them to be an attendee, the selection, right? There's 5 options in here. The selection is VIP FastPass. That identifies them as an attendee. If they don't have that checkbox, it doesn't matter if they have the other ones, they're not attendees. Then for attendee created, we use the exact same contact property, and we are filling that property with Obvio created. It's a checkbox, right? When the attendee is created, we create or we select or mark the Obvio created checkbox in that exact same contact property.
Love it.
Then when the attendee is checked in, we have another checkbox, which is Obvio checked in. And we select the Obvio checked in checkbox for that same contact property when they check in. Then, if you noticed, in that particular checkbox, there are 5 options, right? There's VIP FastPass, there's lifetime replay, there's confidence collection, Obvio created, and Obvio checked in. Lifetime replay and confidence collection, these are tags that are going to identify the attendee as a certain type of attendee to give them specific content on the dashboard. So what we are also doing is the attendee tags property that you can specify in Obvio. We're using that exact same contact property, the 2023 AOL fulfillment access checkbox, And when an attendee is imported into Obvio, it is creating tags with these items based on what's selected. So if I go into attendees, this is actually going to be a question mark as to whether or not it works. Yeah. So you'll see Obvio created, confidence, and VIP show up as tags for me as the attendee when I'm imported. And that's because we have specified inside of the HubSpot integration, I want to use this contact property as my tags. And tags can only be radio boxes. They really should only be radio boxes or check boxes. And I would submit to you that they probably should only really be check boxes. So that's that. And then adding groups, if you do want to bring in additional information, right? Like, so let's say you want to bring in the city of the user, you can bring in the city from the contact. You can import that contact property into the group name city. If you wanted to bring in state, you could bring in the again the contact property state region into the group name state for your sync. So that's essentially how it works. And then once you save it, you flick on the sync, and about a minute or so later, everybody who has the contact property fulfillment access with the checkbox VIP FastPass enabled will be able to be imported into, or will be automatically imported into Obvio.
Phenomenal. I get everything. I want to ask about groups. So with the group property, could this be like, if it's a mastermind for a specific group? Like, so I coach executives, right? But I also coach their managers and their employees. So could a group be, the mastermind is called Accelerated Scale. So the Accelerated Scale mastermind is for executives. Then there's a group coaching for managers. Then there's a group coaching for their employees as well. How could I use groups? I saw how you use them for cities.
Groups are possibly named incorrectly inside of Obvio. A better way to think of groups as is custom fields, right? Because that's basically what they are. They're text-based fields that you can create and modify inside of Obvio, and there's no limitations. We use the word groups because, generally speaking, they identify a subset or group of attendees within your event. So you could use groups if you wanted to, but if I was going to import those 3 different levels of attendees into Obvio, I would probably use tags instead. So I would create a contact property that identified which level they are based on a radio select button or a checkbox, right? So you have a contact property that has a whole bunch of multi-select checkboxes in HubSpot, including manager, executive, or whatever the third one was. I'm forgetting what it was, but you have those 3 checkboxes in HubSpot, and that's how you identify which level of team member they are, and then you set that contact property to be your tags to import, and now when you're in Obvio, you can use that. The other way you could do it is you could use like true false statements, right? Or you could have a single group. See, HubSpot is really, really powerful, and it's really complicated, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to make, from an Obvio perspective, it's hard to make something that's complicated really simple. So I'm going to give you another option that you could potentially use. You could create a group, or you could create a contact property inside of HubSpot that is a radio select that has 3 options: employee level 1, employee level 2, employee level 3, right? And then you import a group inside of Obvio, and you make it that contact property, and maybe you call the group level, right? And then the data that gets filled inside of Obvio will be employee level 1, employee level 2, or employee level 3, depending on how it's selected inside of HubSpot. So that's the other way that you could do it. Those are two options for you, and there's not a wrong answer there. Both of those will work perfectly fine to allow you to identify your attendees and show them using visibility rules to show them specific content, buttons, or resources within Obvio.
So I don't need Zapier at all with HubSpot.
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
this is
With the HubSpot integration eliminates the need for Zapier, kind of like the Keep integration and the MailChimp integration. It's fully, let's just call it fully loaded. You know, and you can also all of the same things that you can do with those other integrations. And let me just see if I can show you something specific that I'm thinking about. Yeah, I think I can. Okay. So when you're synced up with HubSpot and you go into a navigation button, so you'll see a new option for HubSpot tag, right? So the same way you can tag in Zapier or MailChimp or Infusionsoft when somebody clicks a button, you can do the same thing in HubSpot, right? So you can apply on check a specific contact property or value within HubSpot based on an attendee check. Or based on an attendee button click. So a lot of the same stuff that you can do, or all the same stuff that you can do with Keep and Zapier, you can do natively with the HubSpot integration. Got it.
Last question. And I think you just answered it. I just want to make sure. So prior to using HubSpot, I was doing this in Kajabi. And in Kajabi, I was using Zapier. And what would happen is a person would sign in for opt-in form in Kajabi. Zapier would take the Zap, it would put them in HubSpot, it would grab, and then it would also grab the Obvio URL and take that Obvio URL and take it back to HubSpot, to Kajabi, and give me the dashboard link. And then, you know, every email could have that dashboard link. And then if I did an all access upgrade, then the person could pay for the upgrade even in the event, which would send a Zap back, tag it, make them the upgrade, and do that. So I can, through the process you just stated and the radio buttons, I could still do that same process.
Yep. Everything that you just said, you can do without Zapier. If you're without Zapier and Obvio, if you're still using Kajabi for your purchases and your signups,
it'll be HubSpot now.
Okay, great. So if you're keeping everything in HubSpot, as long as on a purchase, sorry, I think I need to answer a door. As long as on a purchase, you can apply a contact property, which I believe you can. I'm marginally familiar with HubSpot. I'm not as familiar with HubSpot as I am with Infusionsoft, but I'm pretty sure you can do that either natively or through a workflow. Then basically on purchase, you apply the attendee tag. And then if they purchase a, if they purchase a VIP upgrade, then you apply the VIP tag and then you're good to go. So yeah, it all happens naturally through that sync. All right, I got to mute and answer a door.